Well, hello and welcome to episode 268 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And 20 years ago, a little film crashed onto the scene. I think it came out like a big like holiday weekend over the summer and came out of nowhere. Total blockbuster. Of course, people love it. Some people like to think about their own boss when they're watching it and maybe don't have that good of a time. But this one, it garnered two Academy Award nominations, one for costume design, of course it did, and another for best performance by an actress in a leading role for Meryl Streep, who proves that she can do anything, including being mean. Today we're talking about The Devil Wears Prada, one and two, kind of both of those at the same time.
Yes, because you can't really talk about the second one without talking about the first one.
That's true.
You really can't. Like, all the characters are basically the same. I mean, things have changed because 20 years ago they didn't have social media the way they do now. So things have definitely changed. But I think it's only fair to really kind of talk about both of them. And so that's what we're going to do.
That is what we're going to do. So, absolutely. So, before we do that, though, if we're going to get into the world of high fashion, which admittedly is not a world that I know that much about, we're going to have to go into a world that I do know more about, and that is the world of cocktails. So, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We'll grab some ingredients, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So, Brian, this cocktail is, first of all, I tried to figure out like a cocktail that would be good for both the Devil Wears Prada and the Devil Wears Prada 2. And I really struggled because I really loved this scene in the first film where Miranda, who is played by Meryl Streep, is explaining the difference between all of these blues that look exactly the same to the untrained eye. And she's like, it's not blue, it's not Lapis, it's cerulean. And you're wearing something that's a TJ Maxx knockoff because I made sure that this color took the world by storm. Ha ha ha. Anyway, so I thought I'd make a drink that was blue like cerulean. However, there wasn't any there. I was really waiting for some sort of cerulean joke in the second one, and it didn't happen.
Mm, that
So,
didn't happen.
hashtag so sorry, not sorry.
Or,
But this drink
or we missed it.
is pretty fun. Yeah, maybe we missed it. I don't know. I doubt it.
I don't know. I don't know. We might have, but yeah, I don't believe that it did. But I'm glad that we're doing this cocktail because yeah, it pays honor to I think one of the most important scenes probably of the two films in really educating not only Andy in the story but us as audience members, especially those of us again who would maybe buy a blue sweater from TJ Maxx and not think anything about it, and that certainly is not the case. And we're going to learn all about that. So, Michaela, I've got the ingredients right here. Let's go ahead and throw one of these together into a shaker tin. It goes as follows: 2 ounces of vodka, 3/4 of an ounce of elderflower liqueur, your favorites, a half an ounce of blue curacao, a half an ounce of lemon juice, a quarter of an ounce of lavender syrup, just some floral notes going on in there. And then we're going to do some luster dust because this is fancy. We're gearing up for Paris and or Milan Fashion Week. So let's go ahead and throw some of that in there as well. Throw some ice in there, shake it, strain it into a very well chilled coupe glass, sip and enjoy. Your very floral, flowery, slightly orange tasting martini. You'll be good to go. You'll be good to go. And I will let all of the listeners know that coming out of the movie, you really just wanted to open a bottle of Wycliffe. That was going to be the original cocktail. I put the kibosh on that, so we are doing this blue drink instead.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to say, okay, I wanted something that was blue, that was really cerulean, and I think the lavender syrup is going to be key here. If you're going to use a lavender syrup, you can make your own. Like, you can make a lavender simple syrup. I would recommend one that is purple, though, because you want those colors to kind of meld. Because the blue curacao is going to be this really bright blue versus like this dark, almost like a richer kind of looking blue that the hint of purple is going to give it. If that's really important to you. If it's not, don't worry about it. It will be Lapis instead of cerulean, and you might not notice the difference, like most people. But I like this drink a lot. It's very boozy. It is a martini. It is like 100% liqueur, except for this teeny tiny bit of lavender syrup and the ice. So just drink responsibly. But it sure is pretty. The shimmer in it is very nice. It's and I served it on a really cold glass because Miranda is cold as ice, and yeah, I like this
Ooh.
one.
There you go. There you go.
Really good there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mix one of these up, drink and enjoy. If you ever happen to be in France or in Italy with Stanley Tucci, let him pick your drink. There you go. So, with that, Michaela, let's go ahead and mix up another one of these. We've got two movies to dig into here a little bit, and yeah, we're gonna be doing that right after the break. So let's do that. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's films, The Devil Wears Prada, and The Devil Wears Prada Part Two. We'll be right back.
Runway. It's not just a magazine. It's a global icon. A winding road that brings us back together again.
Spoiler warning for the Devil Wears Prada franchise. If you've not seen either of these films, we're going to talk about both of them. So beware. Um, we're gonna spoil it. So hope you watch the first one. You definitely need to watch the first one to enjoy the second one at all, in my opinion, because the first one's way better. Yes, we're gonna talk about it. 20 years of a difference. But did you see this film, the original, in the theater? Do you remember it like taking over the world?
I did not see it in the theater. I do remember it taking over the world. This was 2006, so it was kind of right after college, I guess, kind of in those first couple of years. So I remember like getting it, and actually I have this on DVD. I think I purchased it as like I used to go to like the local Blockbuster. That was like in the twilight of Blockbusters. You could go and get like previously like viewed DVDs, like four of them for $20, which was epic. So that was one of the ones that I picked up. So I watched this back in. Probably about 2006 or maybe, 2007, around the Oscar buzz time for this. But yeah, I mean, I saw it right away. Definitely not at the theater. That was a new experience for me going to see The Devil Wears Prada Part 2 at the movie theater. I don't think that you've probably had seen the first one in the movie either. So that was kind of a new experience for both of us. But yeah, I definitely remember it being a big deal in terms it made a ton of money. It had all of this like acting buzz. I mean, you had the living legend herself, Meryl Streep was in it, and I think she had basically taken like a hiatus from like Hollywood stuff for like several years at the time that this came on. Obviously, got the Oscar nomination there for that. We had Anne Hathaway who's coming in, who's like kind of like this America's sweetheart type of a figure, doing like these like tween, like young adult, like romantic comedy kind of things. Coming in to do this was a little bit more like adult themed. You had Stanley Tucci, who is incredible. I don't know if we knew Stanley Tucci in 2006, but we should have, because Stanley Tucci was amazing then. He's amazing now. There you go. And it also introduces the world to Emily Blunt, who just went on to immediately become like this huge star of the Emily Blunt that she is today. So yeah, I remember it being a big deal. What was your initial kind of reactions to this one?
So I didn't watch this in the theater because I knew that I would hate it.
Mm,
And so
hmm
I just
hmm
didn't. Yeah, but I remember like the Oscars when Meryl Streep was up for Best Actress, right? You had Anne Hathaway and Emily Blunt kind of playing off of each other, and that was amazing. Uh, yeah, so I decided to go ahead and give this a shot. I'd seen like scenes of it in the past, so I kind of knew what happened. Um,
hmm
and so I was kind of excited to see how if Turnabout's really fair play and Miranda gets a taste of her own medicine. Um, and so yeah, I decided to, I mean, and you really have to watch the first one to understand what's going on in the second one really at all. I think, and have an appreciation for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was definitely made with that in mind. I don't think there was any sort of like you can just pick
Yeah.
up in this movie. I mean, it was a perfectly like serviceable movie, but like if you didn't have the context of the first film, then you're definitely going to be kind of at a loss here going into the 2026, the sequel that just came out. I don't know how long the sequel had been in the works, but it's pretty neat because you have basically the same kind of four-piece cast there. There's a couple of other parts that have changed in and out, as they do in like 20 years worth of life for anyone. Let's talk about the first one here and just kind of briefly. We're not going to get like super into the weeds on either of these because they go basically kind of how you already know that they go. Like if you like know anything about the Devil Wears Prada, like even if you've not seen it, you basically know it's about this fashion magazine with this terrible boss, right? That's it. So it's based on a book, 2003's The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger, which is based off of like a real life person that's meant to be the character here that Miranda Priestly is in the book, played by Meryl Streep. We also have Anne Hathaway, who's the ambitious Andy, who finds herself working for the Runway magazine. Emily is played by Emily Blunt. She is like the other, like secretary, personal assistant, kind of a thing there. And you also have Nigel, I think, who does like the page layouts or something for the
Mm.
magazine. I'm not 100% sure what Nigel's job is exactly there, but he's played by Stanley Tucci, who is amazing. So yeah, Anne Hathaway finds herself working uh, for this magazine, right? I think they're like in the city. She's like not been able to find a job that much, doing some writing. That would be a tough thing to do, right? To go into the big city and just start writing for a magazine, make
Mm.
any sort of money. But she ends up getting placed here as like a temp to work as the administrative assistant, I guess, to Miranda Priestly. And she goes in straight away, and you can tell, right? 'Cause she's, like she's wearing that blue sweater jumper thing. She goes in, she like thinks all this fashion stuff is like absurd and ridiculous. She doesn't care about it like at all, right? She's just there to kind of do her job, and everyone is immediately dismissive of her because they do a tremendously good job here. The directors, script writers, whoever wrote this book, everyone, uh, to make it very clear that there's a not insignificant amount of the population that would give anything to have Andy's job. And Andy so flippantly doesn't care about having the job at all, which is a very, very big crux of these two films, really.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then, but then there's this whole piece, and this is where I kind of, didn't see it on moral principles, and I kind of stand by it. It's famous for Miranda being completely terrible, and I don't mean like just a hard boss and demanding excellence, which she says she does all the time. I mean like insulting someone's looks, insulting their intelligence, insulting everything about them. Um, and somehow this movie made millions of dollars because the main character grins and bears it and kind of like conforms by the help of Stanley Tucci, right? Stanley Tucci kind of takes Andy under his wing and says, "Girl, let's get you in some Jimmy Choos. Let's put an actual like dress that matches your shoes on you. Let's see what that looks like." And that apparently really impresses Miranda. But then also Andy starts to kind of have to beat Miranda at her own game
Mm.
in all of these seemingly impossible tasks. Andy's got to become really resourceful to figure out how to do. And I really like that piece of it. Um,
I'm going to interrupt you right here, Michaela, because it's not about Andy's conforming to this role. It's really about uh, Miranda identifies in Andy this cutthroat nature that Miranda had in herself. You have their first interaction, and Andy basically stands up to Miranda, which makes her offer her the job, and she goes through and does all of these things in an effort to impress Miranda because she doesn't want to be fired by her A, but because she's so ambitious and has this drive to be excellent at the thing that she's doing, and then has multiple opportunities to kind of walk away from this world to help out other colleagues and things, and in turn does the same things that Miranda does. So I don't think that it is her conforming to it at all. I think that it is her, um, finding it's the reality of herself in this position.
I mean, I see your point, but I also think that in the first film, she proves that she's not like Miranda, right? Like she is given an opportunity to go to Paris, which was Emily Blunt's character. Her name, as she's another Emily. I think her actual name in the movie is
Mhm.
Emily as well. But her dream is to go to Paris, and she levels with Andy at the very beginning. She's like, "Look, if you suck at this, they're going to fire me. They're going to yell at me. You better be amazing because this is actually really important to me. And my dream is to go to Paris." And when they get to that point in time, Miranda offers Andy a chance to go, but she knows that it will destroy Emily. She makes the choice anyway, and she does play the victim here and say, "I didn't have a choice," and she did. But she does at the end of the film, right? When Miranda screws over Stanley Tucci, right? Because
Mhm.
she
Mhm.
wants to
Mhm.
secure her own position. Andy realizes this is not her. This is actually not her. She is actually not like Miranda, like at all, right? She might do it to a point, but she has a soul, and Miranda didn't care who she had to screw over to secure her position in the land of where fashion, right? And
Mhm.
Stanley Tucci knew this, and he's really hurt. But this scene is so heartbreaking at the end of the first one. He's like, "She'll remember. she'll remember. And so I was so hoping that in the second film, uh, we see him doing something. And 20 years later, Brian, he's
Mm,
still doing the
hmm
same
hmm
thing. It was so upsetting to me. I was like, this woman, yeah, it's terrible.
She'll remember, which they address in the second film. We'll get to that here in a second. But no, I disagree with you again because at the end of the film, I'm sorry, Andy does decide to walk away, right? Because she's basically taken Emily's spot here and going to Paris, where she like one ups her at this party that they're at, right? To kind of win favor, I guess, for Miranda, I think is how I would put that there. But at the very end, they kind of make eye contact, and Miranda does the exact same like gesture she did the first time that she meets Andy in there because Andy has come full circle then because she stood up to Miranda at the beginning of the film the first time that she met her, and she stood up to her again at the end there when she
Mhm.
walked away. So I think, like I said, I think that it does a really good job of highlighting that and showing like the actual like appreciation that Miranda has in this very cutthroat world in a world that is publishing very male dominated and stuff like that. And I think that that is a theme then that comes back into play heavily in the second film. I think there's even the line. It's pretty common line, right? Like if Miranda was a dude, then that would just be, that'd just be the boss. No one would like blink an eye at the fact that, he's supposed to be nice, right? To just be like the character trait of this boss that you have there. But because it's a woman, that plays differently. Let's go ahead. We're gonna like fast forward to the end because I want to bring that up because that is an important part there with
Mm.
Stanley Tucci, right? Nigel says she'll remember, right? He gets passed over for this promotion, right? He had to basically get sacrificed in order for Miranda to keep her job and kind of keep the the magazine, kind of going as it were there. So Nigel gets thrown under the bus and get this promotion. He says, "Surely he'll remember." And then you get at the end of the film. You have Andy there who's come back to this. I guess let's go ahead and set the stage real quick. She had went off. She was a journalist there.
Mm.
It's very true to today. It's very reflective of the current world that we live in. She wins an award for like best journalist and then also gets fired via text from that world, which is flailing around to say the least. So basically, I think Nigel puts in like a word to like into the boss to get her in there. So she's back working at Runway right now as like this like features like editor journalist kind of thing, right? Like running like the news department of Runway. So that's how everyone gets back together here. But at the end, she's standing there and she's talking to Miranda, and I think they come up with the idea that Nigel's going to give this speech, like on Miranda's behalf. Miranda has to go do this other thing to basically save her job again. I can kind of is more or less kind of how this plays out. Similar in structure there. But Andy's like, you owe him or something along those lines. And Miranda says, well, surely he knows like how much he's appreciated, right? Because in her head, like you know, uh, he doesn't have to say. And that's one of the things. This isn't like a management podcast, but there are a lot of different ways to manage people and to deal with people. So in her mind, they had a great working relationship. You'd see them bickering back and forth more so than anyone else. And in her head, you're like, of course he knows that I love and care for him. Like even if you don't say it. And that is true at home, that's true at work, that's true a lot of things, right? Like you always assume that people know how you feel, but you don't say. But then they go and they have that beautiful moment. She goes and she kisses him on the cheek and
Mm.
is like, thank you so much for everything. So
Yeah. So yeah, but she actually tells him 20 years later. I
well,
don't know. To me, it wasn't enough.
you don't know what you don't
Feel
know.
Yeah, that's well, oh, you should have some self-awareness. And I do find it interesting that in the first movie, like there was this huge thing. She literally is throwing coats and $5,000 bags at Andy.
Mhm.
And watching that, I was like, "Yep, I never would have lasted. I would have been like, you're never going to treat me this way." And the fact that everybody is like, "Oh, that's just how it is in that industry." It shouldn't have been. It should never have been that way. It shouldn't be that way today. And at least now, HR is like, "Yeah, Miranda, you can't throw stuff at people anymore." And they kind of make it, and it's kind of a joke, like, and it's not funny to me. Maybe I'm overly sensitive, but I found it really interesting that at the end of this film, right, Andy once again proves that she is not the same as Miranda, that she has a line and she's not going, She's not going to just do whatever it takes. And what I find interesting is she's asked, Andy is kind of given the opportunity to do like a tell-all book. And at first she really thinks about it because she could make some serious money and, you know, everybody would want to know like what is it like to work for the devil, I guess. And what I loved, my favorite scene in the second movie, I think, was when Miranda does say, you know, I heard about that, that you were given the opportunity to write that book, and I think you should, you know, because I am terrible. I am really, really amazing at what I do.
Hmm.
But it came at a price. I wasn't around for my kids. I was not a good mom. Like it came at a price. And she seems to be okay with it. But she's like it does, and maybe the price is that you just have to be terrible to everybody, because it's an interesting thing that you say when people were like, "Oh, she was a man." No one would think twice. I would have thought twice. I still wouldn't have worked in that environment because men shouldn't be jerks either. Like no
Yeah.
one should be that kind of boss. It doesn't matter what flesh is between your legs. You shouldn't treat people that way in any industry. And so for me, it was really just hard. I understand why other people liked it. It's really hard for me to like it, because I just yeah I think I'm just not cut out for that business, and that's okay. That's okay. But I definitely would have been the one of the people that's like, I wouldn't have made it past the first interview because I would have not survived it at all. I don't know. I get why people liked it. And I think it was neat showing Miranda's transformation a little bit because you don't see a lot of that in the first film. Um,
Hmm.
you see kind of the only time she acts like a human is when she's just been told that her husband is getting a divorce, is going to divorce her. And then she switches right back on. In this one, she's a lot more human. Uh, and she does a lot more of like self-awareness than she did in the first one. And so I like that. Um, but I don't know. I feel bad for Stanley Tucci. He's been doing this job for 20 years, and it only took that long for her to say thanks. I mean,
Yeah,
ooh.
but the film does a really good job in the first film of kind of highlighting that to that end of like how important like being in this world is to these people. So we make mention of Andy, right? Like Andy, you know, she could have thrown her jacket and purse at her, and Andy could have been like, you know what, F this, I'm out of here, which is fine because there would have been 1,000 applications for that job in 1 second, right? That's kind of the point of it, and they do a pretty good job, I think, of hammering that point home. But Stanley Tucci has that very, very touching scene when he's talking to Andy there in the first film, and he's like, I was this outsider kid in Pennsylvania, and fashion was my escape, and I stayed up at night reading this under the covers so no one would find out that that's what I was reading late at night
Mm,
was these copies of Runway magazine. So that is his place. That's where like his life's work and ambition was to get
mm,
to that magazine, right? So then, it's an examination of what you'll tolerate. And obviously,
mm,
like I said, like Miranda and him had a much more uh, harmonious, I guess, relationship certainly than her and Andy's, right? As more
mm.
of a colleague to that end. So yeah, I mean, ultimately it is, and he says that line, right? Like, she'll pay me back for this one day
When the
at a
moment
time,
is right.
and when the moment is right, and maybe the moment was right 20 years, right? Maybe it should have come earlier, but that's not always how those things work. So no, I thought that was really great and kind of highlighting that. And like I said, like these are the kind of worlds and the kind of jobs. I have a friend who I had worked for the Los Angeles Lakers, and they're like the hours were terrible and the pay was terrible, and everyone was mean to you all the time because they know that if you quit, they'll have 5,000 applications from across the world to replace your job in 1 second, right? So
Yeah, I don't know. Ugh, I don't love it. I just don't love the premise behind it. And it's that, to be fair, that's the premise behind the film. That's not the film itself. It's beautiful. The costume design for this, it really should probably get some sort of nomination or accolades because I loved some of the depictions and how it's changed over time. I thought that was really great.
mm-hmm.
Miranda is still terrible and awful, and Meryl Streep is just a goddess. I mean, everybody acted this really, really beautifully. Um, and I think in those aspects, some of the shots were really cool. I mean, I just don't, I think the content or the premise behind the story is what puts a bad taste in my mouth. It's a well done sequel. Is it better than the first one? I don't think so. I think the first one does a lot um, of a more paradigm shifting, I guess, for me. Uh, but again, the content, the premise behind it just kind of I don't know. It doesn't interest me, so it just seems really, I don't know, not my cup of tea. But I think it was well done.
Well, I think you need to go along on that journey then with Andy in the film, who also goes into it not caring and thinking that Miranda sucks, but she gets pulled into this world, not necessarily even like the world of fashion, but working for this high profile, high energy magazine with these people that are like the top like creative people like in their fields and maybe in the whole world and how you get pulled into that. And I think it does a good job then of exploring like how she is like falling into that conversely to like the relationship that she's having with her boyfriend who's played by whatever his name is there in the first one. Totally drawing a blank on his name, Adrian Grenier,
Mm,
in the first one, and how she's not falling in love with fashion necessarily, but starting to see like the appeal and the importance of it, and how it begins to like take over her life. There's an incredible um, like transformation shot where it shows her like basically walking on her way to work and it's like cut, and every time she like goes behind like a car or a lamppost or something, she comes out wearing like a different outfit as you see her going through this transformation of Andy, the aspiring journalist who doesn't care about fashion, to being
mm,
Andy, the person who really wants to be kind of the second in command to Miranda.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I also thought, ooh, what's his name? Kenneth Branagh was in this for a hot minute. He plays Miranda's husband, one of them. I mean, the latest one, I guess, in the second film. And I liked some of the tenderness there. I think he was a little
Mm-hmm.
bit wasted. I would have liked to see more of that. And I think for me, what would have made that a little bit easier to bear. Like this idea of somebody being really amazing, but also really terrible and hard to work with it would have been nice to see a little bit more of the amazingness. Like when we talk about the inspiration for the cocktail we made, we talk about that scene where she talks about how cerulean blue became a thing, and now that's why 2 years later it's everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see more of that because I think that it kind of got lost in translation for me. And then it begs the question for me, like, is Miranda really great? Or is it that she just works all the time and she demands everybody else work that hard too? And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. Now, in the second film, we see a little bit of that in like her having to grind, right? Miranda having to grind because she definitely had to. You can only imagine the crap that she had to put up with to get to where she is today, you know? Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think it does a pretty good job of that as well. 20 years on, and the world of journalism and magazines and newspapers has changed, and I think it does a good job of showing like to not put it too lightly that like the world of print media is an uphill battle, like
mm,
to say the very least, and to see like how the people at Runway have grappled with that, how she has had to change and adapt, how the people around her have had to change and adapt, and then ultimately it's kind of the rush on this magazine is the former like owner of this print media group has passed on, and his son from The Office, Ryan from The Office, has taken over there to that end. But no, I mean I like this movie a lot, and I'm obviously you shouldn't be a terrible boss, and I don't think that this film is like condoning the fact that it's okay to be terrible, but I think everyone can kind of relate in a way to Andy, in that we've all had bosses that we thought were terrible, and you go and you complain about your boss, and then you go back into work the next day and do what they tell you to do because they're your boss at the end of the day, and you need to make a
mm,
paycheck, and you need to go about living your life. But I think we can also like identify with the aspect of like how like seductive and alluring something like that could be, right? Like even if you're not into to fashion, I mean, Andy, goes and she gets all of this stuff and she's hanging out with her friends who like could not care less about fashion, but she gives her friend a $6,000 purse, and her friend's like, I want that purse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That part was really tough, I think, too, because they make fun of Andy at first. It's like a running joke where she's, doing all this stuff for Miranda. And then that's in that very scene. Miranda calls her and they like steal her phone and they don't want to give it to her. And that seems like a bridge too far for me because Andy wasn't happy doing all of this. She wanted to do it because, again, the idea was if she just lasts a year, she can work anywhere because it's everybody is would be so like incredulous and in amazement that she lasted that long. And so it was really important to her to last. And her friends just kind of didn't understand. And then when she continued that down that road. I think it just further pushed her into, well, my friends don't understand, my boyfriend doesn't understand. I'm just going to figure this out. And then she goes and sort of compromises her entire morals for it, right? And then realizes that's not who she is. And I kind of
Yeah.
again,
And then
yeah,
she gets the letter of recommendation from
she
Miranda,
does, she does,
gets her a job. I told you, see, Miranda has always thought that Andy was on her same level, whether Andy saw it or not. And maybe that was the growth that Andy had to go through, like to get to that point where she was willing to stand up for herself. And that's what
yeah,
Miranda saw in her. Like I said, from the very, very outset, right? When Andy walks out and Emily has to run down and tell her that she got the job, to then the end of the second film when she's,
right,
in the opposite corner office to Miranda, right? Having taken over this media empire now.
yeah.
So was Miranda a terrible boss? Maybe. Did Miranda get Andy to exactly where Andy wanted to be the whole time? Also, maybe.
I think Andy got there all on her own. I mean, maybe not all on her own, but she did the majority of the work. I mean, there were 20 years of her working to get to, I don't know, some award. And I mean, I don't know. I think it was really telling in the beginning, right, where she's going to accept this award and she's like, I just got a text message that I'm laid off because that's how much this stuff is valued. Um, I don't know. It's very cyclical, I feel like for me, where if you're going to perpetuate the cycle of treating people that way, it never goes away. It's nice to see that now she can't throw things at her employees and that's like not acceptable. So
Mm.
that's good. That's good.
There you go. So, yeah, I guess that's going to wrap it up here for The Devil Wears Prada, unless you had anything else to say about it. I will say we went to the theater. It was on, what night was that on? Wednesday night. Theater was very well attended. There were a lot of laughs and reaction from the crowd
Mm.
every time there was a callback to the first film. Because, yeah, aside from after this podcast, a lot of people really like The Devil Wears Prada, and I certainly understand why, because I think that the first film is pretty incredible. The writing is spectacular. It's so well written. And then, yeah, obviously well acted by four of the greatest living actors of all time
Oh
coming
yeah.
together
Oh
into this
yeah.
thing. So,
Yeah. I don't misunderstand. I think the film it does a really good job of doing what it's supposed to do. I just didn't love the premise. But I think I'm too much of a Care Bear. So
well, there
maybe
you
that's
go.
it.
No World of High Fashion for Michaela, I
Nope.
guess. Or we'll have to,
Have you
we'll have to
seen me?
we'll have to
No way.
change people's hearts and minds, I guess, if we're gonna go that way. Drink the fashion. I guess we'll have to toughen up. I don't know. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up here for the Devil Wears Prada and the Devil Wears Prada Part Two. Let us know if you saw the new one, what you thought about it. Let us know what you think about Devil Wears Prada. Let us know why Miranda Priestly is a good boss, bad boss, indifferent. Let us know why Meryl Streep is incredible, and let us know if you mix up a cocktail to go along with the Devil Wears Prada. You can do any of that stuff on our social media. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of the cocktail we made, episode recaps, recipes, links to all of our things, that can be found on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you want to support the podcast, get bonus content, cocktail chats, hangouts, all that kind of stuff, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. Thank you so much to all of our patrons out there. You are amazing, beautiful people. Michaela, we're going to have some more fun stuff coming up this week. Next week is still in limbo. We keep changing it. Like every day, we think of something new to do. So get on the roulette wheel with us. We'll figure that out next week, and then we're gonna have Mandalorian and Grogu after that one. That one's non-negotiable, I say. So, Michaela, where can people follow along, like, review, all those things?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We do 2 drops a week. Join us for our lobby bar where we can make an easy cocktail that anyone, even you, can make and talk about all things box office coming out. And then our deep dives, like the one you listen to now. And usually we agree on. Yeah, we do 2 drops a week, and it's so cool that we're able to share our love of cocktails and movies and all things Meryl Streep with our listeners.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. So, with that, that is going to wrap it up here for episode 268, The Devil Wears Prada 1 and 2. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink the
the movies.
Movies.
That's all.
She's one of the Emilys.
One of the who?